So we're getting cracking on week 3. I really wanted to use one of those funny Facebook filters to start the video. It was like this super noir, like sunglasses that was like black and white and stuff, but I'm not skilled enough techie wise to actually figure out how to turn that off once I started the video. So I just made faces into the camera for a while I waited to get started. Switch over here to make sure we're actually doing something. Oh, there's my face. So nice. Okay, so this week we're talking a little bit about the environment. What can we do to make our homes, our bodies, like more friendly to good commensal bugs, to the good bacteria, to the microbiome, right? Which is kind of the whole point of this class. Sorry, I keep moving and the camera's jiggling. So there were several good questions in the Facebook group this week, and I want to address those, but I'm going to wait a little bit towards the end in case some people want to get on and have more questions, or that the people that asked them want to show up and, you know, hear the answers, although they can hear them later. So I hope fermenting is going good. I hope some people are trying it. We had fermented, this is true confession, okay? So we had fermented mayonnaise. Tonight we had egg salad with some gluten-free little cracker things, these little stop-sign chips we call them. And it was delicious. It was so good. The kids totally dug it. So that's a really easy way, right? Mayonnaise, so simple. But the other day I was creating a recipe for gluten-free, dairy-free zuppa toscana because Olive Garden, right? So who's going to copy that and then try to make it healthier? Me. I'm going to do that. And I had some ghee, which is clarified butter, which is it's basically, it can't create an antigen response in the body for people that are allergic to dairy. People that are really severely allergic to dairy usually shouldn't probably flirt with the line, but you know, some intolerances or things like that. It's very different because it's just the fat, it's just the oil. Actually, it's just the oil at the top. And so I had this little jar of ghee and I had this little jar of fermented mayonnaise, and they were in the same exact type of container, and they were almost exactly the same color because we have our chicken eggs that are from our local dude, and the chickens are free range and they eat bugs and grass and whatever. Or probably not grass. I don't know. Do chickens eat grass? I think they're carnivores. Anyways, the yolk is really super yellow, so I'm, you know, getting ready to saute my onions in this ghee, and it's going to be great. And I dump it in there, and I'm like, man, this ghee, usually ghee is really hard because it's been separated, and so all the soft kind of goodness is out of it, and it was been kept in the fridge, so it was definitely firm. But it just poured right out, and I was like, wow, that's so great. And it was the best zuppa toscana I have ever made. I was like, I nailed it. I'm going to write this recipe down. I'm going to give it to my clients. It's going to be awesome. And then when I went into the fridge today to get out the fermented mayonnaise, guess what? Yeah, I absolutely cooked soup in a base of fermented mayonnaise, and it was delicious. It was so good. I probably killed all the live bacteria that I had grown in that, but there was enough left to have egg salad. So that's your little tidbit of my fermenting experience this week. And then yogurt was a huge success. Oh my goodness, the dairy and the non-dairy, delicious. So you guys will be getting those recipes soon. All right, so let's talk about environment and the microbiome. What can we do to support good bugs and to enhance the body's ability to fight off the bad? Because I hope you've learned from the lectures thus far, the balance of good and bad bacteria is very important. So number 1, check what you're putting on yourself. Super easy. Read some labels, read some ingredients, parabens, phthalates, alcohol in all of your body care products are really destroying the microbial balance, the good bugs on your skin. Man, this camera is super jiggly. It's super bugging me. All right. So yeah, check what you're putting on yourself. You can check out the Environmental Working Group, the EWG. They have a website that is fairly independent. They obviously have some bias because they're looking for hidden evil things that, you know, big companies aren't revealing are bad for you in their products. But I think in general it's a really reliable and good resource to check body care products for toxicity level. And this kind of goes more into like endocrine disruptors and kind of detox. But it's the same idea, right? Because if we're putting harmful things on our bodies, whether it's in chemical form or, you know, it's altering the microbial balance on the skin, that's really important. So checking out the EWG for your body care products, everything from your makeup, they have guidelines on sunscreen. We'll talk about the food in a minute here. So just take a gander, like start being aware of what you're coming into contact with, whether it's, you know, your paints. Are we looking at like, you know, painting or repainting your room and figuring out, you know, there really is a difference between, you know, this volatile organic compounds that we can breathe in and cause damage to us both inside and outside in microbial health. And there's other options. Same with furniture and clothes, and you can really go down the rabbit hole and get super overwhelmed, so you don't have to do that necessarily. But it's a good idea to start being aware of what's going on you, and that goes for lotions and, you know, antibacterial. So let's beef on that for a second. You don't probably need antibacterial soaps in every room of your house. Absolutely, when a stomach bug or something goes through here, I'm gonna sanitize. You better believe it. But I don't usually need anything harder, like more, oh, that's a good question. I don't usually need anything stronger than like a vinegar with some Castile soap or something like that, or even lemon to get the sanitization done. I don't need bleach. I don't need antibacterials. I don't need Lysol. I don't need those kind of things. Because we're really destroying all the opportunity for good commensal bacteria. In the bathroom, I have Dr. Bronner's. If you buy Dr. Bronner's, and I'll put a link below to my Amazon affiliate if you want to buy it. You can get it at Target also, for sure, I know that. You've got to read the label because it is a trip. You will crack up. I swear it's some kind of creepy cult or something. But the baby Castile soap from them has very limited disruption for the microbiome. You're still washing those germs off. You're still, you know, especially with kids, I mean, man, do they make a mess in the bathroom, and you want them to wash their hands before they eat, and all that stuff is great. Totally, absolutely. But you don't need antibacterials to do that. You're really destroying good commensal bacteria when you do that. So, hi son. And so what type of laundry soap do you use? I switch. So I have a really exciting health condition where I become allergic to things if I'm exposed to them for too long, despite all of my amazing healing that I've been through. So I alternate. I always look for things that have the least amount of ingredients, right? Costco has one that's called Echos. It's a local Washington-made detergent. I use that frequently. 7th generation I like. You can make your own for like on the cheap, but I don't because I make fermented foods and, you know, homemade broths, and nobody's got time for that. I mean, I don't have time for that. You might have time for that. So you can make your own. I have a link to a pretty good recipe, but you can check the EWG as well for the least toxic laundry soap that there are, and you really don't need much. We have a friend who's a repairman, and he's like, people overuse soaps in everything. The dishwasher, the washing machine. Where else would you use soap? The shower? You probably are over cleaning, so that's another one. Our obsession with being clean is not necessarily healthful to the microbiome. Now, I definitely make my 11-year-old shower every other day just because he's going through some things and he's a little smelly. He's going to kill me if he ever sees this in the future. But we need to be able to cultivate healthy bacteria on the skin. Our skin is our big barrier, right? It's our massive organ that's protecting us from environmental whatevers and knots and crazy pathogens and all kinds of great stuff. So keep in mind that we don't need to get over clean. Using soaps that are natural and don't have, what was the 2 ingredients? I even wrote them down somewhere, but I have a big list here. Yeah, antibacterial was a big one, but there's a couple other preservatives in soap that actually can really mess with your microbiome. Because I get it, we want to be like clean and not gross, but we also don't need to destroy all the bacteria that's on our skin in that process. Yeah, so I use Dr. Bronner's. I use that. I have a, I'll post it below. I have a recipe for all-purpose cleaner. I use it for stinking everything. I use it for everything from cleaning the floors to cleaning the bathroom to, and then we just use a little bit of the Castile soap and like a little pumper in the bathroom for like hand soap, and in the kitchen. We use it for soaking veggies, so let's do that. Let's talk about vegetables. Pesticides, herbicides, right? All of those things you can imagine don't do super friendly things to bacteria, because kind of their job is to destroy those living organisms. So when we buy and ingest foods that have those things on and in them, so like when we talk about strawberries, strawberries are fumigated with this nasty, nasty stuff frequently as the strawberry is growing. So basically it's got like layers, right, of this toxic substance that's really going to cause massive upset to the microbiome and the bacterial balance, and to really make your liver work really hard to try to get it out. So buying fruits and veggies that are on the Dirty Dozen, picking those to be organic. So Dirty Dozen, not everybody knows about. Environmental Working Group has a list of fruits and veggies that are the nastiest. They've been researched to have the most chemical alteration and have links to specific health concerns, because like these, it has been researched, right? So it's the Dirty Dozen. It's the 12 things, fruits and vegetables, that if you can, that's what you shoot for, to buy organic, local, in season, all of those things, because they are really toxic to the body. And over time, we don't want our fruits and vegetables to be killing us, right? We're like making an intention to eat them to improve our health and wellness. So, what are your thoughts on corn? That's such a good question. My thoughts on corn are vast right now, because I'm just halfway through listening to The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan with my husband. It's a very timely question. Corn is in everything. I have multiple clients that have sensitivities to corn, and when you get down to it, it's really hard to eat anything processed that does not have a massive amount of corn either like in it, or the thing that fed it, like the dairy from the cow, like the cow ate corn, like that's what it survived on. And corn has been altered so significantly that I think health-wise it can cause some significant detriment. There's a reason that when people do an elimination diet to try to figure out underlying food sensitivities, or like just give their body a huge break from the most common allergens, there's a reason that in the top 5, corn is in it. And that is because it is currently not necessarily recognizable in most forms to the body. We still absolutely have corn on the cob. We love it. It's like our summer treat, right? I've been known to eat a corn tortilla now and again. But the point is that it's a really hidden and significantly altered crop. And it's very challenging to find it in a form that is not going to be that. So hopefully that answers your question. That was kind of a roundabout way to say reduce your corn intake, or read labels. High fructose corn syrup. Dude, all of these studies that I've been telling you about, where they make the mice sick, or they figure out how to, induce diabetes, they use high fructose corn syrup to make these mice's lives, to make these mouses' lives miserable. They do. And so that's a pretty good indication that it's not something that should be a part of our diet, right? If we don't want to be miserable and have metabolic syndrome and be sick and grow cancerous tumors and stuff. So, when we're on the topic of food, great question. How about soy? You guys are killing me. Okay, so that's a good one. So how about soy? Guess what? It's in the top 5 too when we take things out for elimination diet. Soy can act, especially genetically altered soy, much more so than an organic, like not mutated soy product, can act as an endocrine disruptor. So people that have a history or high risk for hormonal-based cancers, it's often advised nutritionally to avoid soy. I have seen some research that indicates to me that an organic, non-GMO'd soy can actually have some significant health benefits, and it can actually support like kind of this be like a phytoestrogen in a way that's actually supportive to the endocrine system. It's actually included a lot, like organic soy or black soy things, organic tofu, tempeh, and some other things like that are recommended for specific like a mitochondria diet, which is a mito food plan that I have worked with some of my cancer clients with, as well as a detox food plan, because there is some absolute benefits to it. When we look at the isoflavonoids, I can't remember what that's called. They did a lot of research with that soy prolient or somebody's gonna have to type it because I'm not gonna remember. Soylent, that, especially in those forms, like it can be damaging. So it's all about quality and quantity, I think, when we talk about soy. I make a lasagna that doesn't have gluten or dairy, and I could fool you. It's really good. But I use an organic tofu for that, and we use it in sometimes our ramen bowls and things like that. But it's not a main source of protein for us, and I think that it's a good idea to really be mindful of where it comes from, because that's going to change how your body reacts to it. Soy, as a preservative or in things, I'm not a fan of. Most of the time, if you're buying something that has a bunch of ingredients in it and has been, super processed, it has soy chucked in there, and so it's really pervasive. Obviously, the cleaner we eat, the less exposure we have to all of these corn byproducts that are fillers, and the soy byproducts, and the wheat, to thicken it, or whatever else it is. So as we move away from those, like reducing those to a healthful proportion is a lot easier usually. So Dirty Dozen, make sure to look that up. I'll post a link below. I keep saying I'll post a link below. I hope I remember to post all these links below. You guys can remind me. It's been a long week already. It's only Thursday. Excuse me. Okay, so what about like preservatives and additives as far as microbiome goes? How about MSG? Oh, I had this pulled up a second ago. So monosodium glutamate, we're all like, oh yeah, MSG is like bad for you. We learned that. We for sure know that. Somebody told us, and all the a bunch of Chinese restaurants say no MSG, and that's awesome, and that's great. A lot of people are highly sensitive to monosodium glutamate, and something really interesting that I'll talk about this next week in the lecture when we talk about the gut-brain connection is how glutamate is the excitatory side of this figure, and GABA is the calming. So we can really mess up our neurotransmitters and our brain connection and all of those things. But there is a lot of names for MSG. So now that everyone knows that MSG is bad, or most people know that MSG is bad, or we have some kind of negative connotation with it, right? On our salad bar, we don't want MSG. There's like a billion other names for it. They call it yeast extract. All gelatins have MSG. Yeast nutrient. Textured protein, glutamic acid, calcium caseinate, sodium caseinate, hydrolyzed corn gluten, Most of these, all of those contain MSG, and most of these do. So carrageenan, which for up until recently was in my favorite almond milk, that I finally quit buying, and then they took it out because it's apparently a good company, although all of those companies are owned by bigger companies. Barley malt, maltodextrin, that's my favorite for talking about microbiome. So maltodextrin has been shown in many research studies to absolutely destroy good bacteria and prevent them from populating, and also to support bad bacteria, because you're not only harming good bacteria, but you're like preventing the other ones that survived from growing. So it's really, and it's in a lot of things and has several different names. My absolute favorite thing that mostly usually contains MSG in it is natural flavors or natural flavorings. I dare you to go read some cans, boxes, bottles, and look for natural flavors. I don't know how they can get away with not telling us what's in our food. Okay, that was my rant for the day. So do you have a protein powder you would suggest? Absolutely. I really like a grass-fed whey for people that don't have dairy intolerances. I think that there is some significant benefit to whey powders. There's just a ton of research out there. It's really complicated, but and I am surprised by that, because when I went into grad school, I was like, no, dairy is bad for you. No way, protein powders. But there's a few that I think are really good, and I will really try to remember, because I don't have a pen, to post a couple links to some brands. So I do a lot of independent research on actual brands and the cleanliness of their products. I use Labdoor and a couple others that are independent research, things that test for how clean products are and the processes in which they're made and the animals which they come from, or the ground or whatever else. I really like a pea protein, Biotics in particular. I'd have to look up the other company. And then I really like hemp as a protein source, especially for my clients that struggle with allergies. Hemp is really hard to have, like a hemp protein or a hemp, like hemp seeds. I really like to get protein in, whether it's smoothies or something like that, from flax, from chia, from these hemp seeds, or hemp, it's like a meal almost. So that's a kind of a variety for you. When I feel like being a cheater a little bit, not necessarily has the cleanest ingredients, but cost-wise and convenience-wise, sometimes it's useful to use the Vega brand or Sun Warrior. When it comes to like kind of a pre-package, it's got all the flavors in it and stuff like that. But I think the purer we get, the healthier we get, for sure, when it comes to protein powders. And a lot of them are contaminated, and a lot of them have pretty harmful ingredients in them and have not a lot of honesty on the label. So I'd be really careful of that. But the grass-fed whey is actually a decent one, and it covers a lot of bases that I think people are surprised about when you get something simple like that. Okay, so body care products we talked about. Antibacterial, we don't need to antibacterial all the things, right? Environment, artificial sweeteners is another super big one that just destroys the microbiome. It really messes with your, and we'll talk about this next week too in the lecture. It increases your risk of Alzheimer's and all of these inflammatory cognitive decline diseases. And a large part of that is because it damages the microbiome. The links between Alzheimer's and like the microbiome health, huge. The link between autism and microbiome health, huge. So when we look at additives, we're looking at colors can be really damaging and cause a really allergic response. Like added colors created in a lab that, a lot of countries don't allow these particular colors to be added to their food because they've done research that says, well, that's harmful, we're not going to put that in. So just getting as pure as possible, like with our ingredients, and artificial sweeteners are pretty much, the only one that I can in conscience say is like decent would be stevia, but we're looking at stevia from a plant, right? And then we're processing it all of these ways and getting it to whatever powdered form. The liquid is probably the cleanest as far as the supplements go. You could always get a stevia plant and try one of those leaves. If you have even a nibble of a stevia leaf, wow, it is so sweet. I don't like the aftertaste, so I just skip it and go for small amounts of natural sugars like raw honey, which supports the microbiome. Maple syrup in its purest form supports the microbiome. I actually have a recipe for coconut yogurt that uses maple syrup as kind of the bacterial food in the yogurt. Like the bacteria eats the maple syrup, and then of course it tastes sweet because it's delicious. So I would opt for those always over artificial sweeteners. Oh yeah. Okay. So I have one more topic, and then I'll get to the questions that were asked this week, and then if anyone else has questions, you can ask during that time too. So the last one is getting into nature. So it's actually a prescription for my eczema and atopic dermatitis clients to get dirty, get in the soil, not the nitrogen sprayed pesticide fields, cornfields, or whatever wheat fields are out, Road 68 or anything like that. Get into the dirt in your backyard. Make sure there's no herbicides and pesticides or weird fertilizers. Start composting. It sounds so daunting to do these things, but once you try it, like literally composting is like, there's just no science to it. I thought, you have to get the right layers. I need to do bark chips and all these things. You just put scraps. Don't put animal proteins. Put a little grass, like pick a corner. I just kind of block off a corner. Start creating your own rich bacterial soil and then sprinkle it in your beds. Let your kids get dirty. Dig in it. If you live in an apartment and don't have access, volunteer to go weed somebody's garden. I kid you not. Getting your hands in the dirt and your face near to the ground and your body in the soil is going to dramatically shift your microbiome balance. They've done research on these different, this is the fancy word for getting outside. Earthing and grounding are the technical terms for being outside. But they've done research over and over with changing nothing in diet, doing nothing different with medications, being forced to sit in nature for 30 minutes a day dramatically decreases blood pressure, dramatically decreases actual cholesterol levels, like being outside. And we can talk about for days the cholesterol connection to the gut and microbiome and all of that stuff. It's huge. And toxicity levels. Alzheimer's patients, being outside, putting their feet on the ground. Think about if you are a working person, if you are, you have your own home or you don't live in a tent or something like that. Think about how often you come into contact with the actual ground. So like I was busy all day. I ran a ton of errands. I picked kids up. I dropped them off. I did play dates. I had clients. I threw the ball for the dog. I did all of these things. I didn't actually touch the earth all day. Like I haven't come into contact with actual ground, if it's not even like through my shoes, or the shoes might have been counted, but I didn't even walk into the grass. I didn't be in the actual like physical ground all day. I was on cement. I was in my house. I was in my car. I was on cement. I was in the store. So keep that in mind. As far as stress and health goes, just being physically touching nature, and I'm not super crunchy granola about this, I promise. It is documented over and over and over again. It changes our actual physiology. It changes how our bodies manage and cope with stress. It changes how whether we're in fight or flight, like rest and digest. People can get stuck in this fight or flight system of the nervous system and never can get to rest and digest. And so we're not sleeping good, we're not feeling good, we're not digesting well, our bodies get all out of whack. And so microbiome wise, just get outside, touch the ground, touch a tree, hug a tree, guys. I'm telling you, it'll totally work. But that's a really big one. For sure. It really is. And that's going to make a dramatic difference, especially if you have skin issues or gut issues of any kind. Increasing that microbial diversity by being in the soil is huge. So we kind of hit on the 4 biggies. I'll try to remember to post all those links. So this week there were some good questions that were toughies. Thanks for that. But one of them was, because I posted all that kind of gut healing stuff, but not yet the 5R program. So I'm not trying to lead you on, I promise. I've just been slammed with new clients. And so the questions were, I gave that symptoms questionnaire and the kind of 5R overview, I guess, was like, where do I even start? Where do I begin? What do I take out? How do I know what I'm reacting to? I have 3 systems on the questionnaire that are all seem really important. I scored high in those areas on the digestive health questionnaire. I have a couple different answers for you. One is, it's really hard. When I see clients, this is not a plug for my practice. Sorry, my earbuds keep falling out. This is not a plug, but it really can be challenging to navigate, especially when you're in it, to see objectively the potential triggers, the potential core imbalance, whether it's the gut lining, whether it's just bacterial health, whether those things are combining to cause havoc in food intolerances or allergies that are underlying. It can be really challenging. So I recommend seeking out a healthcare professional that's has a solid knowledge base, but also is intuitive, right? They need to listen to your story. You need to have time to explain where you grew up, and that they're going to ask you questions about your childhood and your stressors and the foods you like and don't like, and all of those questions. So that's really important. You can buy a book called Digestive Wellness, and it's great. It's a great book. And she will teach you and talk to you about where is most effective to start in your journey. Like, is it the foods? Is it integrity of the gut lining? Like, what is and she uses what's called a dig in model, and each of those letters has it's like an acronym for where to start. Is it digestion? Is it, oh my gosh, I don't know what the I is. Anyways, it's a fantastic book. She was one of my professors, and she's incredibly knowledgeable, and she's brought information to the people. Without having you read that whole book, I can't just say, this is what you need to do. With people that do it on their own, the 5R protocol always starts with removing. It's a fairly strict elimination diet. You cover all the bases. You take out all the potential allergens, nuts, corn, soy, dairy, gluten, sometimes citrus. I really try not to have my clients go through that. I try to be more targeted and figure out exactly what foods are going to be the most important to remove for a period of time to test for symptoms. Here's the tricky part. If you're going to do an elimination diet, make sure that you strategically add things back in one at a time, no more than one per 3 to 5 days, and you binge on that so that you can gauge if you're having a reaction or not. Otherwise, it was all for naught. So we do an elimination diet as a family every summer, and the reason that we do it is to just seal up those tight junctions. We do it in conjunction with gut healing, so that's another thing. So often for some of my clients, they just need their gut to be sealed up, and then their food issues are going to go away. Then we can work on re-inoculating and rebalancing the microbiome. I talk about this in the gut health lecture, but glutamine, zinc, and DGL, deglycerated licorice root, are some things that can be really beneficial for sealing up that gut lining, and there's a couple products that have them all together in the right quantities. Sometimes you need to reassess the terrain. So if our brush border, all these little microvilli that stick out like this, that are supposed to be helping break down nutrients and then absorbing things in, if those are squished down, we may need to balance the terrain. So N-acetylcysteine or other things like that. Oh, that was what I was going to say. So also one of those things that's really going to support the microbiome is to make sure you don't have any nutrient deficiencies. which can be really hard to tell. You can use your physical symptoms, right? Our body always talks to us about what's going on inside. So all symptoms are, whether it's like a foot fungus or a persistent headache or something like that, that's the body saying there's an imbalance. But you can look up the medications that you're on, if they're prescription, or supplements is fine too, on something called Integrative Therapeutics. There's lots of different websites, but I use Integrative Therapeutics Drug Nutrient Checker. So if you're on a prescription medication, I highly recommend you go log on, plug in your prescription. It's Integrative Therapeutics Drug Nutrient Checker, and it will tell you about your medication and what nutrients it is known to deplete, what nutrients you need to support it, to enhance its ability, and what things you need to avoid. And usually those are herbs. Sometimes it's nutrients, sometimes it's vitamin E or something like that. And then you can really know what your, like how your body is responding. So there's a few things across the board, like we talk about HGMA co-inhibitors, co-reductase inhibitors. Anyways, ACE inhibitors, right? Or cholesterol statins. So we always look for CoQ10 because the statin blocks the receptor for the cholesterol. But it also doesn't distinguish between the CoQ10, and so we're automatically deficient or have a high propensity to be deficient in CoQ10, which actually is needed to help lower cholesterol. Shocking, right? So look those up. That would be a really good one. So that's kind of the answer for the questions this week, which was, I really recommend seeking out someone to help you if you're struggling. You can always do, like, DIY it. You can, I'll really will get that lecture posted by sometime soon. It'll for sure be ready by the end of next week when you get your whole access to Teachable and you get all of this sweet stuff in one spot. But you can start with an elimination diet. That's a great place to start. Increasing your nutrient-dense foods, especially things like bone broths or mineral broth if you're a vegan or vegetarian, to build up the body, both in the mitochondria and then with, as far as bone broth goes, there's a lot of collagen and nutrients, amino acids, and glutamine, which is a good one, right? To help start sealing that gut lining, to smooth things down and to heal from the inside out. And then you look at rebalancing, re-inoculating, which you've learned how to do. I hope somebody's fermenting in this class. I hope somebody's trying it. You can wait till summer if you're like overwhelmed or something, but I hope. I saw Jamie, she posted her sauerkraut. It looked delicious. So that's kind of it for this talk, environment, unless anyone has any other questions. I'll try to remember all the things I said I would post. Oh, spray cleaner recipe, Dr. Browner's link, protein powder, that was one. I'll just have to go back and watch it. I hate watching myself on video. It's ridiculous, especially since it's doing like this. My kids are taking over my office, so I'm hiding. All right, so we have one more week officially of this online kind of class, interactive one. So if you've got your questions in the next week and a half, it's your time to ask. And then all the content will be uploaded. Oh, mineral broth. I will post for you guys only, not for the online, not for the other Teachable people that'll buy this course in the future. The magic mineral broth, it's actually designed for cancer patients who are going through like chemotherapy and radiation and are just totally, completely destroyed. Yeah, totally. Share the EWG post. That'd be awesome. Or their link. Yeah, post away. So the magic mineral broth is homemade. I haven't found a comparison. I don't think there is one store-bought wise. When it comes to bone broth, you can try to sneak some of those different formulas that they really feel like they've gotten all the important parts in it. I don't think it probably has the full complex, but those are at least a little closer. The mineral broth has got 12-ish different veggies, and it includes kombu, which is a sea vegetable, which is very, very nutrient dense. It's mineral and its mineral content, and basically it just feeds your mitochondria which are the powerhouse of our cells, and the mitochondria microbiome connection, which we talked about last week. I think, yeah, I posted that. And the metabolism is all right in there. So when one goes down, the other one's just limping along. But I'll post that recipe for you. Oh no, now that's 4 things. Oh, and she's doing EWG. Maybe I'm back down to 3. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, the mineral broth is legit. I have seen it change a lot of people's lives, from chronic inflammation to a lot of other things. All right. All right, if that's it. Wow, that was a long one. Nice job. I talked a long time. All right, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to post. All of these things as we go are getting uploaded, and it's going to be great. All right. Hey, Bianca. All right, see you guys.